The responsibility of transporting hundreds of Africans to slavery in the Americas rested solely on the shoulders of the slave ship captains. They held the ultimate power to do whatever was required to bring their human cargo to market at a profit. Luke Collingwood may have been the worst slave ship captain of them all. Collingwood was master of the British slaver Zong. In 1781, the Zong was nearing the island of Jamaica, but was almost out of drinking water. Fearing most of his cargo would die before the Zong reached Kingston, Collingwood decided to collect the insurance money on his captives. He gave the order to jettison 132 sick or weak Africans. News of the Zong atrocity reached England through the efforts of Olaudah Equiano. Equiano was living in England and had heard of the massacre from old contacts in the trade. He exposed the incident to British abolitionists in hopes of finding justice, and his actions helped jumpstart England's anti-slavery movement. The owners of the Zong were brought to trial for insurance fraud.
I object. There was no evidence that Negroes were thrown overboard after the rain.
That evidence is here, in the transcript of proceedings.
For the first time, the British people learned about the real horrors of slave ships. They were shocked and outraged. One of the men who spoke out loudest in condemning the Zong atrocity was British clergyman John Newton. Newton had first-hand knowledge about the brutality on slave ships, because he had once been a slave ship captain himself.
John Newton has come down to us as a man who, late in life, found his conscience and began to look back on his former life as a slave ship captain with a degree of contrition, a degree of regret, a degree of self-loathing.
Newton became a prominent church minister whose fiery sermons lashed out against his former trade.
Custom, example, and interest had blinded my eyes. I should have been overwhelmed with distress and terror if I had known or even suspected that I was acting wrongly.
In 1779, Newton authored the hymn Amazing Grace. Perhaps he wrote it as his plea for forgiveness from the people who suffered and died aboard his slave ships. With pressure building from John Newton and other abolitionists, both Great Britain and the United States banned the slave trade on January 1st, 1808. Passage of the ban brought a standing ovation in the British Parliament for William Wilberforce, who had labored for over 20 years to abolish the slave trade. Although importing slaves had been declared illegal in the United States, the institution of slavery was alive and well. In 1820, Spain also banned the African slave trade in Cuba and her other American possessions.